Usually I can stop here and this time of year and you'll see the big grizzlies up in that slide right there. Or any of these slides. They're coming down, they're eating the willow roots, grasses, any kind of winter kill they can find in the slides before they start really moseying on. You'd take quite a few of them in there. Nothing in there right now. Might be kind of late, kind of chilly. It's almost like sometimes they prefer the sun. But anyway, I was last night messing on the phone, looking at some videos on YouTube. Come across some people, handful of people, trying to find and get pictures of these things, and still intent on they're gonna set those trail cameras just right, you know. But anyway, I'm gonna reshare a couple of emails from a person who I absolutely vetted out, professional fighter pilot, and we'll just leave it at that, all right? And this man emailed me with something very significant, and I have a feeling what he shared probably didn't sink in quite well enough, maybe, and there's probably a lot of people out there that may not have even heard this yet, and I feel it's probably one of our most important pieces of knowledge shared with us yet, and it ties in with an email from Edgar when he shared one of his scientist findings when it came to these beings and their skills and what they can see. Now, there's thousands of people coming here new, nonstop. Thousands of new subscribers, nonstop. And a lot of people will email or even see it in person and be like, with all the trail cameras out there, how come nobody's got one trail camera picture of them? Blah, blah, blah. Now listen, this is very important. Listen to this closely, all right? Listen to this, especially if you are one of the few who think you're actually going to set a trail camera and catch one of these beings on it. All right? This is going to really enlighten you. This is some very, very serious knowledge being put together. All right. Steve, thank you for what you do. I hope this email will find other OEF veterans and convince them to tell their story as well. I won't say my name because I'm still active duty and have attempted to scrub this email of any identifying information for fear of ridicule. I am a fighter pilot. I was flying over top cover late one night over the Nuristan and Kunar, northeast provinces of Afghanistan. At the time, VPB Wanat, Wa-Not, so it's pronounced, was an American patrol base located deep within the Waigal Valley, right on the Kunar/Nuristan provincial border. It was surrounded on the north, east, and west by steep mountain cliffs. It sat on the east side of the river, and its valley only opened to the south, feeding the Pesh River Valley. It's pretty much the worst spot in the world to get stationed. Sitting ducks. Taliban owned the high ground on all three sides, and our only exit was the sheer valley to the south. Every day, our guys would take indirect fire from the mountains, and we would get called to drop bombs to suppress. It was classic whack-a-mole. Often, we would get tasked late at night to provide armed overwatch. In other words, look to plink bad guys so our guys could get a good night's sleep. It was sometimes boring, but we were happy to do it. We were armed to the teeth, fat on gas, and looking to pick a fight during nocturnal overwatch. One night, around 2:30 a.m., I found a large hot spot in my targeting pod. It measured roughly 2.5 meters in diameter on the valley floor, sort of huddled in a mass in the southwest corner of an east-west plowed field. It seemed out of place. I elected to zoom in and take a closer look. It appeared to be moving, as if it was a large, live animal huddled over, attempting to dig into the field, as if a human would, by squatting low and pulling back earth between its legs with both arms. It was probably below freezing in the dead of winter and light snow covering the ground around it. The only area not covered by snow was the earth that seemed to be disturbed by its digging. We frequently captured bears, camels, horses, and even a few snow leopards on in our targeting pods. And I assessed it initially to be a very large bear digging in the field. I transmitted to my wingman, "Hey dude, I think I've got another big-ass bear digging in the field here south of the FOB." "Send it," he replied. Asked me to send the grid coordinates. I immediately fired my laser/infrared IR pointer at the bear, attempting to laser its coordinates. As I fired, now listen closely. As I fired, it abruptly froze its movement. What happened next bothers me to this day. It quickly alerted straight up on 2 legs. Holy shit, it's tall. It turned up and left to look at me, and with its left arm and hand attempted to block the laser/IR pointer from its eyes, as if it saw it. Keep in mind, these are only visible with night vision devices. As I was passing the grids to my wingman, it then panicked and took off on 2 feet directly east, and it was huge. Tape review later revealed it was at least 8 feet tall and possibly 4 feet in width at the shoulders. It was heavily muscled and it had no human clothes, but bounded at least 2 meters with each step. It was covered in long hair. It's tracking east, I announced. By the time my wingman got sensors on it, it had reached the east end of the field. What the F is that, he asked. We both then tracked it and argued as to what it could be. A bear? No. A person? No. A wolf? No. It easily cleared a small creek, then took off straight up the hill, continuing east. That hill had to be at least 45-degree incline, and it was bounding up at a rate no man could achieve, all on 2 feet, sometimes a slight lateral waddle. Its arms swung wildly as it climbed, pumping with both bent elbow and sometimes at full extension swing. It was incredible to watch. Despite what you may think of blah blah, I won't promote anybody. His video of the Sasquatch running uphill most closely resembled how it moved. It had made it approximately 150 meters up the hill when my wingman hit it with his laser/IR pointer. He immediately froze and squatted down, motionless but still visible to us. Holy shit, it seized the pointer, he said. Yeah, I know, I responded. We then had a debate as to whether it was an extremely large enemy fighter wearing NBGs and decided it couldn't be because it was late night, he was alone, no weapons, no clothes, and it was probably below freezing, not to mention its size. It waited motionless for about 5 minutes after the IR pointer had ceased and then took off again in the same direction up the hill. From our orbit, we had trouble tracking it from the east side as the rocky outcroppings blocked our view. About 2 minutes later, we lost it in the rocks, perhaps finding one of the multiple caves/crevices in which to permanently hide. Discussions about its possible explanation were soon cut short because confirmed human insurgents needed killing to the southwest. End of story, or so we thought. We immediately poured over the tapes when we got back to base. 2 others witnessed the video, one of whom suggested we had captured a Sasquatch or a Yeti. Jokes then persisted about the difference between an Afghan Yeti and an American Bigfoot. They joked about the 2 of us on the flight. They joked, but the 2 of us on the flight did not. It was too surreal. The tapes eventually got overwritten by real-world events over the coming days. It turns out combatant commanders don't give a shit about one Yeti when they're busy losing a war. A few weeks later, I bumped into an Afghan interpreter originally from Asadabad, roughly the same area. Roughly the same area. After small talk, I flippantly mentioned what I had seen and asked him what he knew about it. His response was dead serious. Yes, you saw Barmano. Did you kill it? No. Too bad, you should have. They take our women. We kill them as soon as we see them. Have you ever seen one? No, but my father killed one when he was young. Wars have moved them away. You should have killed him. I was in disbelief. I've seen and taken part in some pretty horrible things over there, but this one bothers me for different reasons. You get good at recognizing different things in a targeting pod, men, women, children, animals of all species. You learn to recognize patterns of life. I could even tell you an American/Canadian soldier versus a European under infrared just by how they move. For this, however, I have no catalog of experience from which to pull. I end this with 2 questions. Number 1, does any other OEF veteran have a similar experience with the quote, unquote, Barmano? Barmanou. If so, Steve has a great forum here. We're listening. Number 2, does anyone have any story regarding their ability to see laser/IR/near IR energy? I wish I would have had the wherewithal to select one or the other to see which one it was reacting to. All right. Now goes number one, follow-up. Sorry, I'm going to get a little clustered here because I linked a whole bunch of emails in one, all right, that I really want to share again. Now, follow-up. Steve, holy cow, this email really took off. I wasn't expecting that. I'd like to provide you with some amplifying information for you to explain who I am and that it matters, and it's broken into two parts. Second part I'd like to keep between us. First part is okay to share because it provides some amplifying data for some of the questions I've seen in the comments section. Just like you, I'd like to know more about what I saw that night. Part 1, shareable if you want. Orbit just means flying a big circle in the sky, no big deal. The IR spot, or footprint on the ground, is a pinpoint thing like you see coming from a soldier's rifle. It's huge, powerful, and depends on the slant range it's firing from. It actually appears on the ground, to someone with night vision, as a large, slowly rotating, as I fly around the orbit, rectangle. It was somewhere around 6 foot by 10 foot in size at the time I fired on that thing. When somebody on the ground with night vision gets hit with the IR pointer, it appears like an instant rave nightclub. You're bathed in it and it flashes. So under NVGs, it's almost blinding and it's all around you. For this reason, I don't think it somehow sensed it. It was probably bewildered by the overwhelming visual stimulus surrounding it. I also don't think it heard us. My wingman was nowhere near it. I was southwest of it at 5 miles range and approximately 8,000 to 9,000 feet above it. Plus, the winds were light out of the east. I was far away up high and downwind, and trust me, we tried rationalizing the incident via sound as well. IR doesn't necessarily mean MID, and FAR, IR, bands like how the Predator sees in the movie. Let me read that a little more smoother, all right? Because a couple of these caps lock, IR, doesn't necessarily mean mid and far IR bands like how the Predator sees in the movie. My pod constantly and passively sees in the near, mid, and far IR. So yeah, my screen is truly seeing heat vision, represented by shades of black and white. This being appeared bright white, hot, in a field of black snow, cold. Sometimes counterintuitive, I know. However, the IR pointer is in the near IR band. It exists there because it's intended to be seen by NVGs. NVGs see in the visual spectrum and slightly into the near IR. When you fire an IR pointer from a jet, you can actually see the beam coming from your jet all the way to the spot on the ground. If you're in another jet, you only see the spot on the ground. If you're on the ground with the NVGs, you typically only see the spot on the ground, but can, if conditions are right, ride the beam all the way back to its origin. After my incident and combined with several of the other stories you've shared, I'm convinced these things can see in the near IR. Key things about near IR. It doesn't require cold supercooling to sense. NVGs don't have coolers or hypersensitive detector. It allows a greater acuity at night and in occluded conditions, smoke/fog/haze. It can also differentiate water molecule density and can therefore determine vegetation life. The satellite images depicting vegetation growth use near IR to show this via shades of red. Darker red equals more vegetation. There's plenty of studies regarding near IR's ability to show a star's age based on its molecular vibration. And there's all kinds of research on near IR replacing a traditional MRI in hospitals. In short, I'm not convinced that these things are seeing a simple beam coming from the trail cams, but there's probably something else. But I am convinced it's something related to the near IR band. Think about a cold, hard plastic and metal object strapped to a living tree, and you're able to see how live the vegetation is. Wouldn't matter what it emitted or how pretty its real tree paint job is. It's a dead spot amongst life. The other component is the laser. I had my pod set to emit both the IR pointer and the laser. Could it have been the laser it sensed instead of the IR? Maybe. I can't eliminate that as a possibility. As far as not saving the tapes, The tapes are digital recordings and contain lots of classified information. I couldn't simply take a copy of it without a rigorous declassification process. Plus, we're in the middle of a war. There was more important stuff that needed to get recorded. No offense, but it's true. Nobody directed me to delete it either. It was just an oddity at the time. We did save the clip on a classified network in the weird shit folder, along with dudes humping goats and dogs tearing each other apart. But who knows where that ended up. Maybe the Taliban has it now. I have no idea why it was digging. Better explanation of the motion is someone at the beach. It looked exactly like he would start digging a big hole in the beach sand without a shovel. Legs spread, bent over, both arms scooping sand backwards between your legs. I'm fascinated by the stories of people getting the feelings of dread when near one of these beings. In my case, there was none of that. Maybe it was due to the distance at which I was viewing it, or because my jet was clearly the big dog in the fight. The Afghan. I have no way of verifying what he told me. It was the first time I'd ever heard of the Barmanu, and haven't heard about it from anyone else. The internet has little information on that subject. Everyone keeps mentioning the Kandahar giant story. I haven't found a single person to verify that story is even remotely legit. I would prefer to distance my experience from that nonsense. To end it, I'm convinced the answer is near IR, but not convinced it's actually the beam they're seeing. I'm still hoping some vets can pipe in with their experience over there. Afghanistan is a spectacularly strange place. If these things can scratch out a living in Ohio, they can damn sure do it in the Hindu Kush. End of shareable content. All right. Begin shareable content. I say the following only to convince you I'm not full of shit. Probably required, since this story seemed to help a lot of people. Take it for what it's worth. Oh, no, I can't share that. That's your whole name. Must have screwed that up. I gotcha. Keep going down. Give me a second, you guys. So you seen a grizzly behind me yet? Just waiting for a couple straggler cars to go over this remote road up here. But anyway, so after that, and this pile's looking for answers just like all of you are out there, right? Just like we all are. Everybody's avidly coming here to find answers. And then Edgar showed up. And then Edgar shared that report from his colleagues who studied these beings. And I forget the exact details of the study. It's already been shared. It will be shared again because I was in contact with Edgar and his colleagues again recently, okay? And there's more to come. But anyway, back to why I'm sharing this again. And Edgar shared more. His colleagues shared more about the study with the, what was it, half of a candle power. And these things saw it clearly from, what was it, 1,100 yards or something? And the guy raised his hand like that, and they instantly saw it. The big one saw him, 1,100 yards. Something ridiculous. Or even it was 1,500. It was something stupid. And that's the distance they study these things from. But anyways, when I shared that study, the light bulb went off for the pilot, who's still here looking for answers himself, and he instantly replied to me again with this. Titled, Hell Yes. Steve, hell yes. Please relay a personal thank you to Edgar. Totally explains why that thing absolutely freaked out when I hit it with the IR pointer, but also helps clarify some details that I unintentionally left out of my original email. I didn't mention it before, and I haven't really rationalized it in my brain until Edgar's share just now, but his body motion struck me as awkward. It didn't seem to fit the scenario. However, Edgar's report on their potential sensitivity explains said motions as defensive in nature, especially when analyzing the motions associated with the IR dose number 1 versus the IR dose number 2. Upon the first dose, when I hit it, it swung its upper body rapidly upright at the hips and then to the left, but led its leftward torso rotation with its left forearm to secure a good blockage of the IR before its head arrived to attempt answering what the F. It wasn't an inquisitive motion, but rather a surprise, ouch, what the F, run sequence. The movement always struck me as weird, but I hadn't figured out why until Edgar's share. Its body motion upon my wingman's second dose of IR was 100% defensive, almost pain-avoiding recoil. When it crouched and remained motionless for 5 minutes while we circled, it wasn't a cautious, slow, stealthy movement, as if it was calmly trying to lower itself to evade detection. It was a rapid and panicked shot downward, almost a defensive collapse, and it was immediate, nearly simultaneous with my wingman hitting the button. Maybe it huddled there screaming, "Make it stop, make it stop, make it stop." In hindsight, how it moved was a large contributing factor to the overall creepiness. Edgar just removed the creepiness for me. Now I feel some guilt, though. We're pushing some serious wattage, and we're within 1.5 nautical mile slant range by the second dose. That range, someone wearing NVGs would be momentarily blinded. If its eyes were in the IR mode, and as sensitive as that report suggests, I probably injured it, and my wingman definitely caused it permanent damage. It wasn't doing anything to hurt anybody at the time, and here we were melting its goddamn eyeballs out of its giant skull. What does that say about us as a species, huh? It was an accident, right? Assuming they're of natural origin in our natural world, there isn't anything that has supreme senses. There isn't anything that has supreme senses all around. Maybe their sense of smell ain't so great because they rely upon extreme eyesight. It could help explain why so many people comment on their stink. But here's a final thought. If I was one of them, and some human asshole was out there using IR and laser pointers in my direction, I just might run up and rip his arms and legs off purely out of self-defense. Somebody suggested it to the Travel Channel. Somebody suggest it to the Travel Channel ASAP. I'd watch that episode. The fighter pilot guy. All right. A lot of you heard this already. Oh, well. And many of you haven't. And there's a shit pile of people out there thinking they're going to pull a fast one over these beings with a simple trail camera. It's not going to happen. It's not. I mean, obviously there's going to be a handful of little minor slip-ups, but what people are thinking they're seriously putting such extreme effort into a trail camera placement. We're going to hide here. We're going to do this. It's going to happen. Try not to. What I'm trying to suggest is to try not to mimic people who have done these things for years. Okay? It's been done. It's probably, with the amount of trail cameras out there in North America alone, it's probably been done basically millions of times. All right? I've been setting over upwards of 60 trail cameras across British Columbia. Not for those things, but for everything else for a long time. I've intentionally set cameras for mountain sheep, mule deer, black-tailed deer, white-tailed deer, elk, moose, mountain goats, grizzly bears, wolves, got wolverine. You name it, I've got it on the trail cameras. And if I intentionally set out to get it, I catch it on trail cameras. I get it. But the majority of every single place I go to, these beings have frequented too. Do I catch them on the trail cameras? Nope. Why not? Do you think I'm shitty at putting a trail camera out? Do you know what I mean? It's not from the skill of putting the trail camera out, or it's not the trail camera. It's not the trail camera position. It's the fact that our technology is not good enough. The technology that we're allowed to have. It's not good enough. There have been some guys who had very good luck with thermal cameras in Australia. Incredible footage they pulled off. Other than that, trail cameras, it's not going to happen. Anyway, I don't know why. I guess I watched a couple of videos last night of people setting up trail cameras and made a huge effort to put out trail cameras in hopes of getting a clear video or photograph of one of these bush beings. It's not going to happen, man. You got to listen to these people. Listen to a lot of people who are sharing their knowledge here, right? You got to listen to the knowledge being shared and the people that are sharing it. And then try to be smarter. Do you know what I mean? Don't mimic people that have been failing their whole life. Okay? You got to recognize what people do while they fail. So they failed for you already. If you pick up on that lesson, don't mimic them if they're failing. Anyway, that's all I wanted to do. I want to share that again because I was really thinking about it again. And I really wanted to read it again, actually. Especially after I had received an email from some more scientists out there who are willing to share with all of you through me, which I'm excited about and grateful for. Looking forward to it. I can't wait. And it shall be very, very interesting. It's coming from the same group that shared with us the previous report of the studies that they did on these beings. And they have, quote, 3,000 DNA samples, okay? And the male side of the DNA has been clearly picked apart, and they're going to share it with us. And I promise you, from what I've heard, it's going to be a little bit much to wrap your frickin' noggin around, all right? But anyway, here we go. But anyway, I think I'm on hour 10 or something driving. I'm done. I got like an hour and a half to get back to the old homestead, and maybe about an hour away. But anyway, here's that frozen lake, straight out. Now there is where I filmed with my drone that wolf kill buck out there a few years back. Way down there around the corners with that huge slide that came down and across the ice. I filmed that. And I filmed some grizzly bears up on these slides. I'll guarantee you one can hear me talking over in that timber right now, but he's not coming out. He's probably just laying down all groggy. Well, there you go. I'll be back home tomorrow with a shit pile to share.